X3 ships with a couple of great instruments from Applied Acoustic Systems' session range: Lounge Lizard, an electric piano emulation, and Acoustic Strum, a guitar synth. Let's look at Lounge Lizard first. It's opened in exactly the same way as any other synth is in Sonar. Drag and drop it into the track view or open it from the browser menu or synth rack. The interface should automatically open, but if it doesn't, just double click on the icon on the track header or in the synth rack. There are 3 sections to the synth's interface. At the top is the utility section. Beneath that, the processors and effects. And at the bottom, the instrument controls, including a keyboard strip to trigger the synth with if you want a quick preview of the sound. Let's look at the utility section first. In the top left-hand corner is a polyphony control. Use this to select the number of voices the synth uses at any one time. The higher this number, the harder your system needs to work, but the better the synth will sound. Find a setting that works well for your setup. Next to that is the master tuning control. Click drag up or down to adjust. It's measured in semitones and cents. Beneath that is the preset management area where banks and patches or programs are loaded, saved and managed. Click on the Manage drop-down to reveal an extended management area. Use the button at the bottom to add, delete and rename banks. Programs are saved using the Save As and Save buttons above the main program selection display. The History button steps backwards and forwards through the last used programs. Programs can be copied and pasted using the relevant buttons. The MIDI indicator indicates when a signal is being received, and volume controls the overall output level of the synth. Click on the word MIDI underneath the MIDI activity light to open the MIDI preferences. The pitch bend wheel range can be set here as well as where the Lounge Lizard responds to bank and patch changes. The MIDI control mappings can be saved as a default or reset from here as well. Controls can be assigned to a controller. Just right-click and hold over the control and select MIDI Learn from the menu. Then move a control on your controller. The processor and effects section consist of compressor and EQ processors, as well as chorus, phaser and reverb effects. They all have their own on-off switches and control over their main parameters. Ratio on the compressor effectively increases the amount of compression applied as the ratio is increased. The EQ has 4 bands. They are low shelf and high shelf filters with corner frequencies of 110 Hz and 4.8 kHz respectively. Both have up to 15 decibels of cut or boost. The 2 center peak filters have center frequencies of around 530 and 1600 Hz, again with up to 15 decibels of cut or boost. Next are the chorus and phaser modules. Both use a second treated version of the signal with the original one. Chorus is the effect added by mixing a detuned version, and phase adjusts the phase of the second signal. Both have a depth control that adjusts the amount of effect added. Reverb is the classic spatial effect, and the mix control adjusts the dry to wet ratio. The bottom section is where we find the main controls for the synth itself. This consists of 5 modules that combine to produce the classic electric piano sounds. They are hammer, fork, pickup, character and tremolo. Let's see the parameters we can adjust and the effect they have on the sound. The hammer module has a noise control. This adjusts the amount of noise generated of the hammer striking the fork. At its minimum, the sound is quite mellow as there is no hammer noise added. Increase it and the hammer noise gets louder until its maximum it almost overpowers the sound of the piano. The fork module is the main sound generator of the synth. On a real electric piano, the fork is the part that produces the sound after being struck by the hammer. It consists of 2 parts, the tine and the tone bar. These controls here adjust the volume of these 2 parts in the sound. With both at the minimum, there is no sound at all generated by either. Increase the tine parameter and you'll hear a very high metallic sound added. The tone bar generates the main sound from a gentle tone all the way through to an almost overdriven sound at its maximum. The symmetry control in the pickup module adjusts the virtual position of the pickup in relation to the time bar. Moving the control clockwise moves the pickup above the time bar and results in a more mellow tone. The character control emulates various external signal chains such as different microphones, preamps or speakers. There are 5 different settings, or alternatively it can be turned off completely by turning the control fully anti-clockwise. At the far right is the tremolo module for recreating the classic effect associated with many electric piano sounds. The rate of modulation can be adjusted here, as can the depth. There's also an on-off switch to turn it off completely. The modulation can also be controlled using the modulation wheel found in the wheel section to the left. It's the one on the right with a switch beneath it to turn control on. You can now use the mod wheel on your MIDI keyboard to adjust the modulation rate in real time. The on-off control for the mod wheel isn't saved as part of a program, so once switched on it needs to be switched off manually if you wish to use the stored setting. The wheel on the left is the pitch wheel, which can be controlled from your MIDI keyboard. And that's Lounge Lizard, the electric piano simulation included with X3.